In late 1920, as the Irish War of Independence reached its peak, the Kilmichael ambush became one of the defining confrontations between the Irish Republican Army and British Crown forces. Commanded by Tom Barry, the West Cork Flying Column, roughly 36 volunteers, lay in wait near the quiet bends of the Kilmichael Road. Their target was a convoy of auxiliary division lorries, elite British forces made up largely of former officers. As the vehicles approached, Barry signaled the attack with a blast from his whistle. Grenades and rifle fire shattered the calm, destroying the lead lorry and trapping the second. The firefight was brutal and close quarters. Within minutes, 17 auxiliaries were dead, while 3 IRA men were killed. Barry later claimed that some auxiliaries pretended to surrender before reopening fire, an incident that remains contested but added to the ambush's grim notoriety. The victory electrified the IRA and shocked British command. It demonstrated that disciplined guerrilla tactics could destroy even elite units, boosting morale across Ireland. In London, it intensified pressure for harsher reprisals and further fueled the cycle of violence that would culminate in the Truce of July 1921. In the biting cold of late 1920, the Irish War of Independence was at a fever pitch. A rebellion, born from centuries of resentment, was being met with the iron fist of an empire. But out in the quiet countryside, a plan was taking shape, a plan for one single, decisive fight. This is the story of how 36 volunteer soldiers, armed with little more than raw courage and the lay of the land, set an ambush that would not only shock the British establishment but forever change the course of Ireland's fight for freedom. By late 1920, Ireland was a nation locked in a brutal guerrilla war. The conflict, which kicked off in January 1919, wasn't a war of grand armies on traditional battlefields. It was a war fought in the shadows, down winding country lanes and in the heart of bustling cities. On one side, you had the Irish Republican Army, or IRA, a volunteer force fighting for an independent Irish republic. Without the numbers or the firepower to face the British Army head-on, the IRA had to rely on intelligence, speed, and surprise. Their most effective weapon was the Flying Column, a small, mobile group of full-time fighters who could strike in a flash and then vanish back into a sympathetic local population. On the other side were the forces of the British Crown. The regular British Army had a huge presence, with troop numbers in Ireland climbing towards 50,000 by 1921. But the day-to-day grind of fighting the insurgency fell to the police. To prop up the struggling Royal Irish Constabulary, or RIC, London sent in 2 new paramilitary forces, recruited mainly from British veterans of the First World War. The first of these were the Black and Tans, who quickly earned a dark reputation for violent reprisals against civilians. But there was another group that was even more feared, the men of the Auxiliary Division. Known as the Auxies, this was a force of about 2,300 men, handpicked in July 1920 to be a highly mobile, heavily armed counterinsurgency unit. Unlike the Black and Tans, the auxiliaries were all former British military officers. They were an elite corps, battle-hardened and trained for one job: to hunt down and destroy the IRA's flying columns. The Auxies operated with a chilling degree of independence and became infamous for their aggression and brutality. To many, they were the untouchable enforcers of British rule, striking fear into Republicans across the country. And in West Cork, a hotbed of revolutionary activity, the IRA had yet to land a single significant blow against them. That perceived invincibility was eating away at the morale of IRA volunteers and the civilians who supported them. Something had to be done. A statement had to be made. The man who decided to make that statement was Tom Barry. At just 23 years old, Barry was the commander of the 3rd West Cork Brigade's flying column. His story was a complicated one. He was the son of a former RIC constable who had actually joined the British Army at 17 and fought for the Empire in Mesopotamia during World War I. But when he returned to an Ireland in turmoil, his loyalties shifted dramatically. He joined the IRA in 1920 and, using the military expertise he'd learned in the British Army, he quickly became known as a brilliant and ruthless guerrilla leader. He transformed his unit, the West Cork Flying Column, into one of the most disciplined and effective in the entire IRA. Barry understood the psychological power the auxiliaries held. He knew that to fight back, his column had to prove this elite force wasn't invincible. He decided to plan and execute an ambush so perfectly that it would shatter their aura of dominance once and for all. He began scouting for the perfect location, riding on horseback through the countryside. He finally chose a remote, winding stretch of the main road between Macroom and Dunmanway. The spot, near the village of Kilmichael, was a natural trap. The road twisted sharply, forcing any vehicle to slow right down, and was flanked by low, rocky hills that offered perfect cover. Crucially, Barry noted there were no easy escape routes for his own men. This would be a fight to the finish. On November 21, 1920, just 1 week after the trauma of Bloody Sunday in Dublin, Barry assembled his column. It consisted of just 36 volunteers. Their arsenal was dangerously meager for the job. They were armed with a mix of rifles, including the notoriously unreliable Canadian Ross rifle, and had only about 35 rounds of ammunition per man. Their heavier firepower consisted of just a few revolvers and 2 Mills bombs, the standard hand grenade of the British Army. Before they marched to the ambush site, Barry laid out the brutal reality of the mission. He told his men that the auxiliaries were merciless killers and that if the IRA lost this fight, no prisoners would be taken. The only way out was to kill or be killed. He made it clear, the fight would only end when every last one of their opponents was dead. This wasn't going to be a simple harassment, it was planned as a battle of annihilation. On the bitterly cold afternoon of Sunday, November 28, 1920, the 36 volunteers of the West Cork Flying Column lay hidden in the frozen, rocky landscape overlooking the road at Kilmichael. They'd been in position for hours, and the tension was mounting with every passing minute. Barry had split his small force into 3 sections, creating a kill zone that covered the road from every angle. As dusk began to fall around 4 p.m., the silence was broken by the sound of approaching engines. 2 Crossley tender lorries, the standard transport for British forces, rumbled into view. They were carrying a patrol of 18 auxiliaries from C Company, based at Macroom Castle. Just then, disaster nearly struck. 2 armed IRA volunteers, who were late for the rendezvous, unwittingly drove a horse and cart straight into the ambush zone, almost giving the game away. With quiet urgency, Barry waved them off onto a side road, and the trap was set once more. The lead lorry carried 9 auxiliaries, including their commanding officer, District Inspector Francis Craik. As it slowed for the sharp bend, Barry made his move. Dressed in what he claimed was an IRA officer's tunic, but which the British would later insist was a stolen British uniform, he stepped into the middle of the road. The lorry slowed to a crawl. Barry raised his arm and threw a Mills bomb right into the open cab. The grenade exploded with a deafening roar, killing Inspector Craik and the driver instantly. That was the signal. Barry blew his whistle, and from the rocks on both sides of the road, the IRA opened fire. The first volley was devastating, ripping through the exposed auxiliaries in both lorries at point-blank range. The first lorry, its driver dead, coasted forward and stopped. All 9 men inside were killed in the opening moments of the battle. The second lorry, about 50 yards back, screeched to a halt as the men inside scrambled to fight back. What had started as an ambush from a distance now collapsed into a savage, close-quarters brawl. IRA volunteers charged from their positions, and the fight descended into a desperate, hand-to-hand struggle with rifle butts, bayonets, and revolvers. It was here that the most controversial moment of the ambush happened. According to Tom Barry's account, some of the surviving auxiliaries from the second lorry dropped their rifles and screamed, "We surrender." As some of the IRA volunteers stood up to take them prisoner, the auxiliaries allegedly drew their hidden revolvers and opened fire again, shooting 2 IRA men dead. Believing it was a deliberate trick, Barry roared the order to his men to keep firing and not to stop until everyone was dead. The remaining auxiliaries were wiped out in the onslaught that followed. This false surrender has been fiercely debated by historians ever since. Some argue that Barry invented the story to justify killing prisoners who had surrendered. Others defend Barry's version, pointing to veteran testimonies and later discovered documents that seem to back up his claim. What is certain is that in the chaotic, brutal final moments of the fight, the IRA volunteers believed they'd been betrayed, and they acted on that belief with lethal finality. When the shooting stopped, the quiet of the West Cork countryside returned, broken only by the crackle of the burning lorries. The battle had lasted less than half an hour. On the road lay the bodies of 16 auxiliaries. A 17th, who was captured after escaping the initial fight, was executed later. Only one, H.F. Ford, would survive, left for dead with a grave head injury. The IRA had also paid a heavy price. 3 volunteers were killed: Michael McCarthy, James O'Sullivan, and 16-year-old Pat Deasy, who died of his wounds later that night. Deeply shaken, Barry ordered his men to line up, salute their fallen comrades, and march away from the scene. News of the Kilmichael ambush sent a shockwave across Ireland and Britain. For the IRA and its supporters, it was an electrifying victory. A small column of local volunteers had met and completely annihilated a patrol from the Crown's most elite and feared force. It shattered the myth of auxiliary invincibility and gave Republican morale a massive boost at a critical point in the war. It showed that with meticulous planning and ruthless courage, the IRA could defeat the best troops the British Empire had. For the British authorities, Kilmichael was a humiliating disaster. The near-total destruction of a patrol from their top counterinsurgency unit was a military and public relations nightmare. It came just 1 week after Bloody Sunday, and together, the two events marked a terrifying escalation of the conflict. The British press called the ambush a brutal massacre, and the government vowed revenge. In the days that followed, British forces launched a series of vicious reprisals. The city of Cork was famously burned by auxiliaries in December 1920, partly in retaliation for Kilmichael. The ambush hardened attitudes on both sides and spun the cycle of violence even faster. But it also sent a powerful political message to London. It proved that the IRA wasn't just a disorganized rabble but a determined and capable guerrilla army. The British cabinet was forced to accept that what happened at Kilmichael was a military operation, not just murder. It hammered home the reality that a purely military victory in Ireland was going to be incredibly difficult and costly, pushing the British government, however reluctantly, down the road toward an eventual truce and negotiations. The Kilmichael ambush remains one of the most significant and iconic events of the Irish War of Independence. Its importance goes far beyond the grim statistics of that November afternoon. Militarily, it was a textbook example of a successful guerrilla ambush, a case study in how a smaller, lightly armed force could use terrain, surprise, and sheer determination to defeat a superior enemy. For the IRA, it was a tactical and psychological masterpiece. Politically, its impact was even greater. Kilmichael fundamentally changed how the conflict was seen. For the Irish, it became a powerful symbol of defiance, proof that the might of the British Empire wasn't absolute. For the British, it was a sobering lesson in the true cost of holding Ireland by force. Along with other major IRA successes, it helped convince key figures in the British government that the war was unwinnable in the long term and that a political solution had to be found. The ambush and its leader, Tom Barry, were immortalized in Republican folklore. Barry's memoir, Guerrilla Days in Ireland, cemented the story of Kilmichael in the popular imagination, while the controversy over the false surrender has ensured it remains a hot topic for debate. In 1966, Tom Barry himself stood with the surviving veterans of his column at the ambush site to unveil a memorial to the fallen. Kilmichael was more than an ambush. It was a defining moment. It was a brutal, bloody, and controversial confrontation that laid bare the savage nature of the war. It was the day a small band of volunteers on a remote West Cork road didn't just win a battle, but helped alter the course of a war, striking a blow that would echo through the halls of an empire and help pave the way for an independent Ireland.
gathering sun and wind. Story, the memories of fearsome and bright. Those names are illuminating glory with madness for long since have died. Forget not the boys of Kilmichael, those brave boys saw gallant and true. Oh, fought 'neath the green flag of Ireland, conquered the red, white and blue. On the 20th day of November, the Tans left the town of Macroom. Never seated into Crosley tenders as they hurried along to their doom. They were on the high road to Kilmichael. They never expected to start. They met with Tom Barry's bold column that made a clean sweep on them all. Forget not the boys of Kilmichael, those brave boys so gallant and true. Oh, fought 'neath the green flag of Ireland, conquered the red, white and blue. The lorries were out before twilight, and the high over Dunmanway town. Their banners were raised in triumphant to show that the Tans had gone down. They gathered their rifles and bayonets, and they left now the glen so obscure. They never drew in till they halted at the barrel where camped Glenore. Forget not the boys of Kilmichael, those brave boys so gallant and true. Oh, fought 'neath the green flag of Ireland, conquered the red, white and blue. The sun in the west was sinking on the eve of the morning day. The Tans never eagerly waiting, they went into the spot where they lay. And over the hills went the echo, the peal of the rifle and gun. The smoke from the lorries gave tidings that the boys of Kilmichael had won. Forget not the boys of Kilmichael, those brave boys so gallant and true. Oh, fought 'neath the green flag of Ireland, conquered the red, white and blue. So here's to the boys of Kilmichael, those brave boys so gallant and true. Oh, fought 'neath the green flag of Ireland, conquered the red, white and blue.
The story of the Kilmichael ambush stands as a powerful reminder of how desperation and defiance can alter the course of history. It's a raw tale of courage, sacrifice, and the brutal realities of war, one that's still debated to this day. If you think stories like this deserve to be told, take a moment to like, comment, share, or subscribe. Every one of those actions helps fund our work. We're supported by YouTube, so each engagement is like donating 1 cent to keep Irish history alive. If you think our work is worth 1 cent, act now. It truly makes a difference. Thank you for watching. What happened on that lonely roadside in West Cork was more than a fight. It was a declaration that a new Ireland was being born, written in gunpowder and blood.